Let's stick on the budget now. I'm joined by University of New South Wales economics professor Gigi Foster, joining me live from Sydney. Good to talk to you, Gigi. First up, is this attempt to con the ABS and the RBA going to work by using taxpayers' money to sort of artificially keep inflation down for a short period? Is that going to con the RBA into lowering rates?
I mean, I doubt that will happen, no, because the RBA is a little bit more cluey about economic matters than the man on the street. I think, unfortunately, what you're seeing here is that the government is banking on people being somewhat economically naive and not really realizing that the additional expenditure that's now being planned in the coming years is going to be inflationary. So, of course, the government is setting up the RBA for a need to be the bad guy, and people won't like that. So it's kind of trying to handball the scapegoat, I think, over to another institution. And as Pauline Hanson actually said, pulling wool over people's eyes. I loved your takedown of the energy rort. I mean, that's the most striking thing about this budget is the, on one hand, propping up an industry, and on the other hand, giving consumers the money that they need to not feel that propping up quite as much in their back pocket. I mean, it's insane. And
you could not make it up.
I hope that we keep talking about that. Exactly. You couldn't make it up. It's amazing.
It is too insane to make it up. If you wrote a fictional piece about an electricity system and cross subsidies that we have in Australia, people would say that's implausible. They'd reject it from any sitcom. Look, we know what Jim Chalmers... Let's have a look at what Jim Chalmers says. Here's what he's got to say about this budget and inflation.
While the outlook is uncertain, Treasury's forecasts make it clear that our policies could see inflation return to target earlier, perhaps even by the end of the year, helping to turn the tide for more Australians who are under pressure and who remain the #1 focus of this government.
Yeah, it looks a big call to, when you've got such high spending, to think it's actually going to reduce the pressure on inflation. My theory is that they want to go to an election as soon as they can and just make sure that they don't think they can get an interest rate cut, but just make sure they don't get any more increases before they go to an election. On assessment, even given for the tricks in trying to get that inflation rate down, do you think that this budget will be inflationary or counter inflation over the full year?
Over the full year, probably slightly inflationary. They could have done worse, I will say that. So they could have gone with a lot more money spraying to many, many more groups who they could easily have said are doing it tough in the traditional Australian vernacular. But they didn't. They have, of course, put this huge amount of money into the energy side of things. They've also increased Commonwealth rent assistance, and they have put money into aged care and a few other places. But I think some of those are very good investments. I mean, I liked the aged care investment, for example. The Royal Commission really wasn't heeded at the time, and so if in fact that money will go to adopting some of the recommendations, I think that's good. So there are some categories of expenditure I think are a good idea, but there's just a lot of ideology in here, not just the green energy stuff, but this business that we should have 80% of Australian workers by 2050 being university graduates. I mean, where is that coming from? We don't need that. We need more people who can do things with their hands, to build houses, to do things in our houses where we can't even find an electrician or a plumber or anybody because there just aren't enough workers. So I think the government is trying to spin a story to make it seem as though it's caring about everyone. And unfortunately, some of its expenditures are, very counterintuitive, certainly, the $300 energy expenditure. And some of them are just based on silly goals, such as the university stuff and certainly a lot of the energy policy. So, yeah, I think it is going to be on balance inflationary, but it could have been worse.
Thanks for joining us, Gigi. I appreciate it.